Hi, my name is Mia, and welcome back to the Yap Section, the show where we talk about pop culture, music, and fashion. Today, we are talking about the VMAs. I was invited to the VMAs by Upstream Media and MTV over the weekend, and so I got to see a lot of really cool live performances, and artists just have their star moments. To start off with, we're going to do the tops and flops from the red carpet. On the top, we have Alandria from Love Island. Y'all know I love her down. She is the next it girl in the making, if not already one of the current it girls. She was wearing a gorgeous red corset with arm-length gloves and like a beautiful sheer bottom to it. And she was really just giving that girl at the VMAs. Next up is Sabrina Carpenter. And her red carpet look was okay, but her after party look for the reopening of Studio 54 was mind-blowingly stunning. And I believe it was a vintage dress also worn by Cher. She was really knocking it out of the park with the references this weekend. We can also talk about the reference to Britney Spears during her VMAs performance, but we'll get there. But the fun neon gown with like strips of fabric and the grommets on it was absolutely breathtaking on her, along with just the exaggerated top and bottom lashes. And it really fit into her album aesthetic as well a little bit. If you've listened to the album, it has very much like an 80s vibe to it, mixed with a little bit of country, but really particularly the 80s vibe of it, I feel matched that dress really well. Doja Cat had a really stunning look as well, and everybody was talking about her eating her lipstick on the red carpet. I thought that was a really fun PR move for her. It seemed like 80s had a really big theme for the red carpet today because she also had the big hair, the shoulder pads, the bright colors. Her performance also seemed to have some of those aspects as well. Ariana was another one that was like, the red carpet was iffy. I'm not going to call it a flop, but like, girl, it was boring. But her acceptance dresses were amazing. I really loved the fun little white tutu look that Law put her in. One that was like a half win, half loss for me was Summer Walker's. Everything from waist up for me was a win. I loved the fluffy blue hat and the corset she had going on. The like sequin capris, however, could have done without. But she debuted off her new man. Nobody knows his name. Girl, get that bag. I see you. The only rap girl who really did it for me tonight was Glorilla. I thought the plaid look was really good on her. Ice Spice, Sexy Red, Lotto, I'd say to the front, but really go to the back because fire your stylist or change stylist, please. But we'll get there in the flop section. And then finally, my last one is going to be Conan Gray's look, the only guy who made it to the list, unfortunately. And Conan Gray will always be that fashion boy. I'm really glad he's finally getting his mainstream moment, not only from his performance, but also from the red carpet. He's also one of the only guys I've seen at the Met Gala who gave us what needed to be gave. Like, everybody else said, boo, boring, 0 out of 10. Conan is always 10s across the board. And I keep saying, like, some of y'all don't celebrity correctly, okay? Like, you're telling me that you get to go on the red carpet, you have photos at the ready to memorialize your youth, the best looks that you could ever have, and you showed up in a boring plain black suit. Boo, next. Get off of my carpet and give someone else a try who will actually do the camera the justice it deserves. On the flop section, as I said, the rap girls were really not bringing it for me today. Maybe if Megan or Cardi had been there, because Lord knows they know how to rock a red carpet. But Lotto, Ice Spice, and Sexy Red, no. Just no. The thing about Ice Spice's look, however, for whatever reason, is I think it was just something on the styling. Maybe the pink hair just didn't really match the like denim and plaid look that was going on, because I didn't hate the dress. I just hated it on her. And I'm not saying this as a hater of Ice Spice even, but it just, something about it didn't match her energy and aura that she had going on. I think she's still kind of trying to find her new look after she got called out for stealing somebody else's last year. And they haven't quite found it yet. But they're working on it. I feel like they're getting closer. They just, we haven't hit bullseye. We've hit like whatever the ring is outside of the bullseye. The biggest offender of the night, if I had to give an award for the worst look that hit that carpet over the weekend, Alex Earl, girl, fire your stylist. In fact, have y'all ever seen that girl who does judgments on like the potluck platter things and she's like, jail for you?
Death row! And that baby food you brought to the function will be your last meal. Next.
Your taxi driver, your Uber driver, your mother, like everybody. That is how I feel about that look. You looked like you pulled that out of the Goodwill thrift bin right before you hit the carpet. Like, and I know you are one of the top earning influencers. You have the access to nice clothes, girl. That felt like the equivalent of the ugly ass golden goose shoes. Like, why did you show up in something dirty trying to pass it off as expensive? Wrong answer, forehead. Next, Tate McRae, my girl Tate McRae. I think she also might need a new stylist because some of her looks are just so incredibly boring. I don't know how to put it any way other than that. I'm not saying she didn't look stunning. She looked gorgeous. That face card doesn't decline. However, that dress did decline, and not just at like an expensive restaurant. It declined at the fucking $5 dumpling market in Chinatown. Like, it was just boring, you know? And even her looks during the performance was like, I understand she needs the ability to do all the acrobatic stuff and move around, but as a former dancer, I can tell you there are much more interesting clothes than a bra top and shorts that you can move around in and do all that acrobatic stuff in. And she has such like a fun personality. She has such a great story of becoming, you know, dancer to now this pop princess. And her clothes just don't tell that story. They, you know, the clothes are wearing her in some ways. There's just nothing interesting about us. It doesn't give us any insight into her personality. It was just, you know, she looked like, no, that was gonna be problematic. Tate McRae's stylist seems like it was Casper the Friendly Ghost for the VMA's red carpet. The only difference was that the cutouts were on her waist versus his eyes, because it was just a plain white, boring sheer gown. It gave us nothing, girl. My last one on the flop list is Zara Larsson, unfortunately, and it's not even because I totally hated the look. Honestly, if they had elongated the dress so that it didn't stop at her knees but rather stopped at the floor, I think I would have liked it a lot better. But something about the shortness of the dress just wasn't really working for me in the look. That is my take on the VMAs. Thanks for joining me, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. Bye!